In this video, let's compare ChatGPT to Claude. Claude is another one of those very popular AI tools. It's one of the leading ones. So let's quickly look at its strengths. It's safer, strong and structured reasoning, better for sensitive content. Okay, great. Weaknesses, sometimes too conservative, not good at edgy, creative risk-taking tasks. And the common use cases, like when would you use it? When you want correctness, safety, reliability more than flair. I'm not sure I totally agree with that, because it has coding tools that are also good. But let's go with this for a second, because even though the AI can be wrong sometimes, pound for pound, it's correct more often than I am. So then I did a funny experiment. I asked ChatGPT what kind of a query would be good to display the difference between Claude model and ChatGPT. And it gave me all these bullet points of what I should aim for. And it asked me, hey, do you want me to create a test for you? And I said, yes. Suggest a test query for me. And it gave me this test query. Take the topic of climate change and do 3 things with it. Explain it like I'm a 7-year-old in a fun story. Then give 5 concise bullet point summaries as though you're talking to business leaders. And then number 3, write a 200-word satirical piece. So I asked it that because supposedly this would test its reasoning and adaptability, creativity and style, clarity and structure, etc. So I asked it that, except I changed it to 100-word satirical piece because I just didn't want to read that much. And so we have the answers. I asked ChatGPT and I asked Claude the same thing. Now, very interestingly, even though the model underneath is different, the children's story started almost identically. Look at this. Once upon a time, Earth wore a perfect blanket made of invisible air. ChatGPT wrote, once upon a time, Earth wore a big cozy blanket made of air. How did they get this cozy blanket detail so similar? I wonder if they copied it from some popular children's story about climate change. Now, I'm not going to read this to you because it would make this video incredibly boring if I read 3 of these answers just from the screen and compared it line by line. That wouldn't work. So I'll summarize these summaries for you. And of course, you can read it on the screen if you like by pausing the screen. I don't think you want to read these, but for people who want to read it, I'm just going to slowly scroll so that you can read on your own time. Now, one thing that both of these did is, you see the 100-word satirical onion-style article. The name of it is Planet Earth Enters Sauna Membership. Okay, sauna. But even and I'm not an expert in climate change, I'm just a regular person. Even I, by now, understand that climate change is specifically called change because some places get hot, some places experience a cooling climate, some places more moisture, some less. So the experience throughout the Earth isn't identical. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but something like that should have been addressed because they're talking about gas emissions, but generally speaking, the problem of climate change is infinitely more complex. So yeah, you might leave it simpler for the 7-year-old fun story, but you wouldn't do that for the business leaders. It talks about global temperatures are rising, but you know what? It's not just rising everywhere. Maybe bullet point 2 is on point. It talks about supply chain disruptions. Yes. Transitioning to clean energy is becoming necessity. Now, this point is a complex point with many pros and cons and extra ideas on both sides of the opinion here. So it should at least be mentioned. So obviously, you see there is some bias by these AI tools. This is ChatGPT, similar with Claude. Although with Claude, it seems to be a little less so because it's a little more objective. Like physical assets face increasing exposure to extreme weather events. Whatever you think of climate change, hotter, colder, whatever, I think there's less debate today about the occurrence of extreme weather, so it's a good thing to mention. And then obviously supply chain disruptions. So the point they're making is similar, but in the way that they're making this point, I think Claude is a little richer here. It talks about carbon pricing mechanisms, which is a really big topic here. Emissions reporting, you have to talk about that if you're talking about business and talking to business leaders. For that audience, this is a big topic. Market opportunity. So actually, this is much better, in my opinion, from Claude. And then in the Onion article, like the funny article, this mostly makes fun of how all the climate advice is getting ignored, while the ChatGPT article was mostly talking about how the earth is heating up, which is a one-sided perspective. Even though it might be accurate, what about extreme weather that's not just related to heating up? So yes, I would agree with ChatGPT with our assessment that the Claude model is actually a little stronger and gave a richer and more intellectual answer. Now, if you really, really, really wanted an accurate answer, you would want to ask a follow-up question to both of these models and compare them. And the question will be, show me research supporting your claims. And it will show you research articles, and you would look at those research articles and you would look, is this reputable research? Like, is it by a reputable researcher? Is the study done an actual legitimate study, or is it kind of a fake study with not too much data and not too much accuracy? So you'd have to dig deeper if you really want to know the truth. You cannot trust these because obviously people who are working behind the scenes are fine-tuning how these models give you the answers. And sometimes the models themselves just don't give you the right answers. So for mission critical and important information, ask multiple AI models, and not just for the initial answer, but for the research that they used to come up with the answers that they gave you. That will ensure that you're getting the best and most factually accurate information.